Hi, my name is Jeff Fagano, and welcome to the Harpin Rugby Preview Show on our YouTube channel. Please be sure to hit that like and or subscribe button if you can. Joining me this week is the owner-operator of Post to Post Sport blog. He's earning Harpin cap number 45. Welcome back to Mr. Ciarán Duffy.
Nice to be back, Jeff. I'm pushing 50 here. I'm nearly at that big milestone. I remember when I was going for 100 articles in the previous guys of the site. So nice to be getting near a milestone. And belated congratulations, 500 episodes for the podcast. Great achievement, and hopefully 500 more.
And thank you for your 44th cap, which was your contribution to that podcast. So that went really well. Everyone check that out in our feed as well. It's a few episodes back, but it's 500. It's how we all got into rugby and stuff. So it's a bit of a departure from our usual stuff. So do give that a look. Okay, so let's turn now to our feature match of the week, which is, of course, Ireland v Wales in round 4 of the 2026 Guinness Six Nations. It's taking place at the Aviva Stadium on Friday, March the 6th, kicking off at 8:10 p.m. with TV coverage on RTE2. Ireland named their matchday squad on Wednesday afternoon. If you're watching on YouTube, it should be right there on the screen, or for pod listeners, it's in the program notes. Now, Ciarán has picked out some points from the starting lineup, beginning with the changes from the last time.
Yeah, I'm happy with the amount of changes that came in. We were talking about it in our WhatsApp group between the pundits, and I'm happy with I was thinking 4 or 5 changes is probably enough. I don't think there's any point in playing a complete second team, because I think that would, as much as Ireland should be beating Wales, I think playing a complete second team would make it a very close game. We saw against Georgia and Portugal over the summer that it doesn't particularly benefit you to play a completely different team that's completely different starting lineup that's never played together and probably never will play together again. But looking through the squad, one change two, I suppose, players I would have liked to have seen were Tommy O'Brien and Edwin Adogbo. I think I understand the Dogbo easing him into the squad. I mean, look, he's not going to be ruled out of the World Cup if he doesn't get 10 caps this year. But I would have liked to have seen him in the second row. I think Ty Burns' best position is at 6. So I would have liked to have seen Adogbo and McCarthy partner. But I think at the same time, Burns a great lock, and it's no harm trying a bit of a different back row with Glasty Timoney at 7. I think he's a player who can give us a bit of depth in that position. Bit surprised Prendergast isn't in the team. Keane Prendergast, that is, because I think he had a great game for Connacht, and I thought he would have been a good one to have on the bench, a bit more versatile than Josh van der Fleer. I was thinking, bit surprised Jacob Stockdale's there, to be honest. I think he didn't have a good game against France, but in fairness, I don't think anyone did. I don't think he'll have a particularly bad game this time around, because he probably won't have to do as much defending. But to be honest, I would have rather Tommy O'Brien and Robert Balakoon get to work on their partnership a little bit more. Looking through the squad, glad to see Nathan Doak on the bench. I think it's important. I don't think it's a slight on Greg Casey necessarily that he's on the bench. I think we just need that bit of depth. Really, we need 3 or 4 players in each position, I think, who can do a job. To be honest, I think it's similarly at hooker. I think Ronan Keller getting a start and Tom Stewart on the bench is a smart move, because while Dan Sheehan and Ronan Keller are probably the top 2 names for the World Cup, I think if one of them's injured, which could happen, we'll need someone else to step up. So I think this is a good move to get a bit of depth. I'm a bit surprised Tom Farrell on the bench, not because he doesn't deserve a cap, just again, he's probably not someone we'd look at long term for the World Cup as being an option. At the same time, I think he does it. I think his form, particularly coming into the November internationals, has merited a cap, and happy for him as an individual. But I'm happy with the amount of changes. A couple of questionable calls, but at the same time, I'm glad it wasn't a complete wholesale changes. And I think Farrell and the coaching staff are right to kind of gradually bring in new faces and do little rotations rather than complete sweeping changes, or sticking with the same team, which we saw kind of wasn't working.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I was a little bit greedy in my hopes for these two games because after following on from what happened at Twickenham, I really wanted to maximize what we were going to get from these two games. So, just from a personal standpoint, I was hoping we would just go full bore for the two games and pick our best possible team. But that's just me. I can totally see why they're trying a few names around, trying some different combinations for this game. I think Nick Timoney definitely deserves a run with seven on his back as opposed to 20, which he was starting to get used to. He's had some great cameos, but he deserved a chance to get to make that jersey his own. But we still got Josh Van der Fire to come on. I'm assuming that we've always got the versatility. Tadhg Beirne can play six. Conan can go eight. There's a lot of versatility around that back row. We can play around with things later in the game. So yeah, and then of course in the front row, we've got Jeremy Lockman's out. So we've had to move up Tom O'Toole. I remember I was looking back to the Grand Slam in 2018, and this particular game against Wales, Andrew Porter was playing as tight head prop. So now we're playing Wales again, and now we've got someone who has played loose but got used to playing tight, and now he's back to loose again. So it's interesting when we play Wales, we seem to sort of tweak the front rows every so often. But listen, it's a great look all throughout the team. I was glad Stuart McCluskey. I had a feeling they might rest him, but he's that McCluskey Ringrose pairing, I think, is the center. I think having them in sort of is kind of pushing for those last two games, keeping that defensive stability in the middle there. And plus, you got McCluskey free to do what he's been doing already and a chance to continue in his famous form. So it does seem very interesting at 23 all around. Now, your second point, you want to look at a couple of key areas where we've got some options.
Yeah, particularly in the backs. I think I mentioned Nathan Doak there. Look, Jameson Gibson Park was outstanding against England. I think that was the first time in a long time that Ireland had a full-on great performance from 1 to 23. But Gibson Park is still a key player. Will he be starting in the World Cup is an interesting one. Like I don't think we have to write off a player just because they're over the age of 32. But at the same time, you might see him play more of a game changer impact sub role. Glad Jack Crowley's at 10. I don't think it's a slight on Sam Prendergast. I just think Crowley's probably further along in development and easy to say in hindsight. But I don't think France, regardless of who started at 10. But I think he is the best option at the moment. Kieran Frawley's on the bench, but I do think if he starts getting a run at 10 in Connacht, I think he next season when he moves there, and he probably won't play much at 10 for Leinster for the remainder of the season, barring injury. But if he starts getting a run at 10 there, I think he'll be he could potentially be Ireland's 10 for the next Six Nations. But I think for now, Crowley is the best option there. Glad Frawley's on the bench because he's versatile. Nathan Doak again, another good scrum half who can kick well. But centre partnership, I agree with what you said that McCluskey Ringrose, you need some kind of consistency in the team. You need some kind of stability. McCluskey's been the former Irish player this season, I think. And first to Tom Farrell, he's a good player. One worry I would have is, and then maybe it's not to be addressed in Six Nations, maybe it's more to be addressed in the Nations Championship, is the age of the centres. I mean, we look at Tom Farrell, Gary Ringrose, Stuart McCluskey, Robbie Henshaw, Bundy Aki maybe departing Ireland now, and he may not be in the fray for the World Cup. But the age profile of the centres is a bit of a concern. I think Ringrose and Farrell will be the youngest at like 33 or something come the World Cup, and that's an issue. You need younger centres. So at some point, it's a tricky one because at some point someone else has to start playing at 13 and 12. Cathal Ford is one option for me, and I think Frawley going to Connacht will help because he'll get more time at 12, I think. But there's the likes of Jude Postlethwaite, there's the likes of Hugh Gavin, Dan Kelly, and Hugh Cooney at Leinster. They haven't really locked down their place in their provinces yet, so it's hard to say who's going to make that. But I think you nearly need to pick 2 or 3 project centres who are going to be worked on. I don't think we're going to see a World Cup squad without any of Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose, Stuart McCluskey, and Tom Farrell. And I don't think we necessarily need to. I just don't think we can rely on all 4. We need a younger age profile. But happy with that combination for now. And I think Tom Farrell getting a cap getting a Six Nations cap is good for him because he's probably been one of those who's just been down the pecking order because of people ahead of him. But I'm glad to see him getting rewarded for good form. And McCluskey, as I said, unfortunately came through at the same time as Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw because, if he was 5 years younger, our problem would be solved essentially at the age profile at 12. But that's an area 12 and 13. We need to start seeing newer players come in at some stage, and maybe it means sacrificing a few Nations Championship games.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on Gibson Park, this is his 50th cap on Friday night. So best wishes to him. They're going to have he's going to lead out the team and all that stuff, and they're putting things on stuff out in the socials about him. So it's been a great 50 caps for him. I mean, I remember when he first came over to Leinster, and it took him a while to get used to the. At the time, it was Joe Schmidt kind of play, that Joe Schmidt ball that we were playing with a lot of box kicks in a sort of a different kind of a style. And it took him a while getting used to it, but now, I mean, if it wasn't for a certain Mr. DuPont, he could be possibly the best nine on the planet at the moment. But listen, so congratulations to him. But listen, let's move on and now have a quick look at our opposition, Wales. They are currently 12th in the world rankings, and should they lose this weekend and Georgia win, which is both are very possible, they'll drop yet another place. They did come close to a win against Scotland in the last round of the Six Nations, but of course ultimately fell to a late George Turner try. Traditionally, the week leading up to this fixture, or Ireland week as they call it, has been a rich source of banter going both ways across the Irish Sea, but it's gotten a lot more subdued in recent years, Ciarán.
Yeah, and of course, Wales having a very difficult time of things. And I think, obviously we all love a bit of sporting rivalry, but obviously the situation in the Welsh Union isn't particularly fair on supporters or clubs. I mean, I think it would be a real shame if they got rid of one of their four teams in the URC, but obviously they've been struggling. There's still a game to play, and I think the thing about Wales, you'd say, look, they were disastrous against England. They were lucky to get their first win in a while in November against Japan, which essentially salvaged them getting a top two seeding for the World Cup. But I think they have improved in the last two games. They had a disastrous game against England, but when they played France, they were always going to lose that game. But they managed to put some decent things together. They managed to put it up to France at times. They didn't ultimately keep the score down, but then Scotland, one bit of magic from Finn Russell probably won the game for Scotland there. And does that speak more to Scotland's ability to lose a game they should be winning, possibly? But at the same time, Wales, I think they have they have managed to put some good stuff together. The last two games, I think they'll probably take a bit of momentum from Cardiff beating Leinster as well. Not that was a particularly good game, but just that was an upset in the end. So I think Wales have improved. I don't think it'll be while ultimately we may see Ireland get a bonus point win. I don't think it'll be as routine as maybe expected, because I think certainly for the first half and first hour, I think it'll be maybe a closer game, because Wales, as I said, they're unlikely to win this game, but they have managed to put a few things together in the past two matches.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Wales is that they'll always produce good players. There's no question of that. It's just a question of what's going on at the very top of the game there. It seeps down, constant headlines in the news about possibility of regions folding, about the money not being there, and all this stuff that's going on to the performances on the pitch, and they've had a really dismal run. I mean, apart from wins over Japan and Georgia, I think there was one over the Barbarians. I think you have to go back to the World Cup in 2023 before they had a win over one of the recognized top teams, and they beat Australia. They pummeled Australia in that World Cup, but it's just a question of, I suppose, they just need the time. I think this Nations Championship might come at a good time for them, to give them a chance to just find their way and bring players through and get a proper squad together. But of course, anything can happen on the day, and if they can get to us early, get a couple of early scores and put us on the back foot, it's definitely definitely something they can do. Okay, listen. Quick look at the officials now. It's Carl Dixon from England holding the whistle there. The mixed nationalities there as well with them. The weather in D4 now. It says the weather is to be clear and cool. 3 degrees, not much wind. It says 0% rain. Never believed that. We thought it was going to be clear in Cardiff last Friday, and we saw what happened there. But listen, that's the forecast anyway. But if you don't bring a rain jacket, if you're going, that's on you. Now we take a quick look at the other matches this weekend. Of course, we're playing on Friday night. I hate that fixture. I hate that kickoff time. It's not a Six Nations thing. Shouldn't be anyway to me. But anyway, listen, it is what it is. Then on Saturday we've got a couple of matches there. Which one stands out for you?
I think they're both interesting. I think Italy, England, though, you're looking at, it's probably Italy's best chance to get a first ever win against England. It's the equivalent probably of Ireland getting a first win against New Zealand. Just that hurdle they haven't been able to overcome. There's been a couple of times they've been close the last little while. The big question about Italy is, will they start to fold after 60 minutes? But I look at Scotland, France as well, and I think France, they probably have a bad game in them, and Scotland probably have a really good game in them. The question is, will those games come at the same time? I think France are capable of losing one of these last 2 games, but realistically, they should be winning the Grand Slam. They should have won the Grand Slam last year, in fairness. But Italy, England, for me, I'm really interested to see how England bounce back. And Italy, I think, I think this is their best ever chance to beat England. So it'll be an interesting one to see. Can they put together an 80-minute performance here and get the win they're very capable of?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of interesting matches there, all right. I mean, you obviously fancy France, and I just thought it was interesting. During the week, Adidas released a video advertising their jersey for their game to play England, which is strange that they do that before a game against Scotland. It was an interesting timing there, and it could come back to bite them because, like you say, France still, no matter how well they've been playing, they always have a bad match in them. So that'll be interesting. That from right from the kickoff, that's going to be interesting. And Italy, England as well. That's intriguing. And let's not forget, of course, the under-20s as well, who are playing that. And they also had a great win against England away in the last round, and they also host Wales on Saturday evening. So we will be looking forward to that. Okay, so we're going to go back to our feature match. Ciarán, head on the block time. How do you see it going on Friday?
I think it'll be a little bit uncomfortable for the first half, maybe even the first 60 minutes. I think ultimately Ireland should have enough and will have enough. I think they'll build on the win against England. I think it'll be 3-score win in the end. I'll say maybe 16 points for Ireland, bonus point. Wouldn't be surprised though if Wales throw a few punches and maybe even score first or something. Could be one of those. It could be a bit similar to some of Leinster's games where they don't, where the other team has a big purple patch in the first half. But I think Wales will be competitive, but ultimately Ireland will have too much and win by I'll say 16.
That's fair enough indeed. Okay, listen, we're going to leave it there, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks very much, and looking forward to being back on again.
Indeed. And thanks to you all for checking us out on our latest preview show. Be sure to enjoy the match wherever you are. And also be sure to leave your thoughts on our Facebook page after the full-time whistle. And then look out for that Rap Pod recording on Sunday evening. Hopefully you'll help us out by liking, sharing, and subscribing. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.